Okay. Since I missed the first meeting, I don't know who knows me or whatnot. I think Danny was very verbose with his introduction. I'm Jeff Grant, the Director of Creative Services, and we have a 6-person team. If anybody has any questions on that, let me know. Basically, what I want to talk to you about is just how to, get started with the job. All right, how do you request design work from us? And this is mainly going to cover print stuff right now. The first step is to determine what your needs are. First thing, simple jobs. Is that reprint or reprint with minor changes? All you have to do is send in a service request, send in the original piece, mark up what you need, or, very simple. Is it a simple print job such as stationery? All that requires is a service request. You can either mark up an example or send us a memo or whatever, and we'll set up your design work. Now the third one is a custom or complex project such as a brochure, poster, logo, or web graphic. That one's a little bit more involved. There are some different paperwork forms needed. All right, this is a simple job, all your stationery. We have visual identity standards. Everybody needs to follow them. The Board of Regents has policy. They've designated us as, well, actually, according to their policy, the president has designated us as the official keeper of visual identity, and everything done on campus is supposed to come through our office. And we don't want any renegade or homemade stationery out there, and that has been done in the past, so we're trying to mainly control the issue of this. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There used to only be one service request, the goldenrod ticket. First one on the left. There's now, those are going away. They're not printing anymore. So you have the option of a PDF service request, or there's also an online interactive PDF, which is actually the top form is the interactive form. That is not actually the form. That's what you fill out and it generates a PDF, although we've been getting those. And we will take them because we don't care. And there's also an Excel file, and I don't know if Andy has any influence, but maybe we can talk to purchasing about eliminating some of this paperwork because they are confusing. Most people don't know what to do with them. Anyway, we need that to pay for a job. That's the first thing you need to do. If we're going to do something that's going to be printed, we need you to go ahead and get approval, get the signatures, and that'll help the ball rolling. All right, now on the custom jobs or complex jobs, these are some ads we've done in the past, and also custom brochures. They're more involved. We need to sit down and talk. All right, we have 3 forms we use ourselves internal. We love paperwork. Publication order form, we've revised it. That is mainly for our internal tracking. What we do when we get a job that comes in, we will fill out that paperwork. We assign it a job number, and that's what we use for tracking. And depending on the type, as you notice, there's a little color coding. If your job is for an external audience, and that does not include stationery, anything like that, anything going to students. When we say an external audience, it could be on campus or off campus. That's like recruitment materials. If you've got a special program, if we've got a conference, they need to be approved by the department head and the dean. Now this form was probably, we were given approval last year and we've just now started using it. So you'll start seeing this show up with some of these jobs. And that's just mainly because there've been a lot of things that were done in the past where the department head didn't see it or whatever and they didn't authorize it and they just want to make sure that they see how their money's being spent. And plus it helps us with consistency. There's a lot of information on here that helps you check things for us. And one of the reasons we do this, we don't charge for our services and we have a very limited budget. So if we mess up a job, we really can't afford to replace it. So it's your responsibility to make sure it's proofed carefully and all the information is correct. And we do make mistakes and we have eaten jobs, but very few. And that number's gone down in the past few years. The newest form we have is a project request form. Most people may know it as a creative brief. That's what's used in the industry. We decided we needed this. Normally what we would do in the past is sit down and talk to campus clients and ask them a series of questions. What are you doing with this? How are you doing all these? We've decided to put it in a paperwork form, and you will fill it out and we will help you work through this, and this will determine if we need to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting. A lot of these big jobs we would prefer to talk to you in person. But basically we want to know who the project manager is. If there are other people, stakeholders, a lot of times there's a committee involved, but there needs to be one person responsible for this. The project name, department, your budget, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. Your strategic objectives. What are the objectives of your department, your office? and your target audience. And a lot of people come in and say, well, we want to send this out to everybody. You can't send it out to everybody. Everybody's not your target audience. You need to think about it. I mean, very seldom do we send stuff out to kids, but we do if we're dealing with VECA. Like learning in retirement, we're going to hit that age group in a different one. You know, recruitment materials, we're going to go for our standard high school students, but also we want non-traditional, but it all depends on the piece. Your message will determine who your audience is, and there will be times when you may hit all of these audiences, but one or two of them have to be a primary, and you need to think about that and think about your objectives. And then we like to ask the question, who, what, where, when, why, and how. You know, who's your audience? What's your message? Where are they going to encounter it? How are you going to deliver it? And why do you need it? And do you have the money to pay for it? So all this is on this new project request form. And you know, it's just something to help with the process. And we're redesigning our website. We have a lot of information on the current site. In fact, I've given you a handout, and there's a limited number, but if you need this, we'll be glad to supply it with you. It's kind of boring reading, but it just helps walk you through the steps. We have a lot of resources available now, but we're currently working on adding more to it. We'll start putting samples out there. We've got guides, sheets, if you'll notice on this paper. On our website, we have how to order business cards. It just helps you walk you through the steps. Right now, all the stationery comes through our office. Hopefully then in the future, maybe within a year, we'll go to an online ordering process where you can bypass us and go directly to the print shop. You can go in and set up the files and do it yourself. Now, if you need custom stationery, you'll still have to come to us, but that'll help eliminate. And one of the reasons why we have exact reprint right now, all the stuff, even if we've done it in the past, we have those on file. If the print shop does it, it needs to come to us so that we can pull the file and send it to them and make sure there's nothing wrong with it. You know, down the road, you'll be able to go do reorders online and bypasses, but that's a year or two down the road or more. If you want to request photography, we have an online interactive form. We've got guides for planning your newsletter, publication, manuscript. If you need a permission form to use somebody else's artwork, publication approval form is out there, publication order form. These new forms you have are not yet, they will be placed. We have a link to the service request form, which is the PDF. I'll also update that and add the other forms so available, because people are having a hard time finding the links to this. In fact, I have a hard time finding it on the purchasing. We have the Visual Identity Program Guide is available. It's a PDF. We will eventually put it in HTML format, but right now most people, they really don't need it. If you have questions, just call us, we'll help you. We have a Better Communication by Design guide that kind of walks you through a lot of the information that's on that project request form. And that pretty much covers it. Any questions?
Jim, I don't know if you need to go to the website. You want to show them the different logos, because I know that does get confusing to people. There's been an issue. What is the logo now?
Now the logo is the one that's in the corner of the West Dome, but we use that for the website. The two-color version is used for print. I mean, I'll show you later when we get on, but that's it. West Dome is for all academic use. The V-State logo is for athletic and spirit use. As far as I know, Andy, that's the clarification we have. Everything we're doing that has anything to do with academic or department gets the West Dome logo. And we do have a place on our website where you can download it.
And also, another thing I think that a lot of people have asked about is we get a lot of requests for an individual logo for a department. How is that being handled now? Like if you have an event or you want to brand your department.
Well, if it's a department, they can't have their own logo. We will do what we call a word text version of that. We will use the VSU logo and add your department text to the side of it, either to the side or underneath it. Now, the exception is when we have special programs, we'll make a special logo. There are several things where we have, I think we even, online programs, we made a special logo because it's an entire program. It's a little bit different, but it still follows the guidelines of VSU identity.
And that all needs to go through your office?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, according to visual identity policy, we have the right of first refusal. Everything is supposed to come through our office. We may not be able to handle all of it, and that's anything that's going to an external audience, basically. If it's going to students or something, we don't need to see it. Of course, it'd be nice. Some of the stuff we've seen go to students. And one of the, I guess a case in point is a lot of flyers and things that people do, they will not include the name Valdosta State University on it. They automatically assume that it's strictly internal. Well, these things go out in the public, you don't know where it's going to wind up. I found, walking across campus, I found publications from the other universities on our campus, and if they don't have the university name on there or contact information, you don't know where it came from. And it may not be important, but it's nice to know if, like, you've got a special program or you see something you like, put your contact information on there, put Valdosta State University, and the university always comes first, regardless of your program or your department. VSU is, nothing else exists unless it's under VSU.
What about, you talked about print, what about web? If somebody wants to do something custom with their website or something like custom web graphics?
We'll send them to you. You know, Bobby is our web designer, and if it's minor, they'll talk directly to Bobby. If it's a big project, and we'll probably come up with a project request form for the same thing, they need to sit down and talk to us as a group. You know, we have a template which we're working in, which is great right now. It's nice to have something that we can actually update and do it automatically. But as far as, you know, we can create you any kind of custom graphic you want to put on your page as long as it, you know, doesn't reflect badly on VSU image. And we've got standards for photography, which we're going to start showing images on our website. We'll give you examples of good photography and bad photography. And we'll also, once we have this branding study completed, there'll be messages that we want to try to use, and we'll try to gear all our images to whatever that message is. You know, we want to be clear and concise across the board. That's one reason why we want to see your publications come through us. You know, it's not to tell you can't do something. We exist mainly to help you improve your work. You know, it's not our job to do your work for you, but we want to make it look good and make it look the best we can. And also we want to make sure it meets the goals of VSU's mission and strategic goals, and it sends the right message. You know, we've got a lot of people with a lot of talent, but we got a mishmash of images, and that's not good. It all needs to have the same visual identity, be clear and concise and cohesive.
If I want Paul to come shoot photos of my event, how do I do that? And is he going to come to everything that I ask him to do?
Well, if you need to get him, there's an online request form, photography request form. If you go to the CDS site, you'll see the links, and there's listed on this page. And it's an interactive PDF form. Eventually, it'll be an HTML form, but right now it's just PDF. You fill that form out and you'll send it to us, and depending on the schedule and the needs, we will try to get Paul there. But we can't shoot for everything. Our main priority is if it's for our mission, as far as if it's going to be seen in the newspaper or the Voice or some kind of publication, it gets priority. Or if it's a marketing piece. But if it's just a grip and grin, we may not be able to make it, because we have a lot of internal projects that we need his time on, and we just don't have the ability. And when we hired Paul, we didn't think we'd be able to keep him busy, and that's not a problem now. We could probably use another photographer. Okay, I can't be that boring. Somebody must have a question.
I have a question. We're working on some internal videos that we wanted to use with our students. Is there someone who needs to review those beyond our office? Would that be you guys, or?
Oh, I didn't hear, what was the question?
They're doing internal video for students, and do we need to review them? Depends on what it is. It would be good if we did.
They can see before they come to orientation, this is what it looks like when you log in and register for a class.
It's like
So it's like
training
a
kind of
tutorial?
Yeah,
type?
tutorial kind of thing. 2 to 3 minute.
You're doing this through Zills?
I actually have some former media students who are working on it that we've seen their qualities before they do it.
I would say, yeah, let us take a look at it just to make sure visually good. But, you know,
Good, I'm done.
For those of you I didn't meet last time, my name is Keith Warburg. I'm the social media and web content manager for the university. I'm speaking for the web team for VSU Web Services today. Gary Coleman was going to present with me, but he's out sick, so I'm going to take over this. Ashley's going to jump in, I assume, whenever she needs to. Probably won't have to, though, so it'll be good. I'm going to put her on the spot. All right. When we first came up with the idea for the VSU portal, we identified a couple problems, and Andy and Brian, I'm sure, are going to touch on this as well, that we were facing with our students when they're trying to get informations to them. One of the big issues is that a lot of our services on campus, things like Banner, email, BlazeView, things like that, had multiple login areas. They were kind of scattered across the site. Sometimes the passwords were different for different services, and so it was a lot to keep up with for our students. kind of difficult for us to communicate in a general sense with our students because they tend to not check their email. I'm sure you guys have figured that out. And also as an advisor, a lot of times it's difficult to communicate advisement information to them, especially when they're not checking their emails. And also we were trying to find a way to reach at-risk students who weren't necessarily communicating with us, but we had the information to figure out who these students were, but we didn't really know how to get to them. So we came up with the portal as a way to solve all of these problems. So the solutions that it gave for us, multiple login issues. We use the Active Directory system, so the same email password that you use on campus for your server access, all of those things, is now able to use that to log into the portal. So that gets all of your services with one password. We use that through the SSO capability, single sign-on. So a lot of our services actually, once you sign into the portal, you're already logged into those services. Right now, it's some of the bigger ones like Banner, BlazeView. We should have email soon, and so that'll help out as well. So you're not having to log in multiple times. So it's not logging in, following a link, logging in again. It takes you straight to it. And then also it allows, so we have it available for all major services. It's pulled them all into one location, so instead of having to go find the BlazeView login page or going to find the Banner login page or keeping 8 bookmarks on your toolbar to get to everything, you log into one spot. It's valdosta.edu/myvsu. It's at the top of every single page on the site, and it takes you to the portal. The portal also has a link for all the services before you log in, so if you do want to go straight to one that maybe doesn't have the single sign-on yet, you can still do that. But we encourage you to log in through the portal so you don't have to track down everything or keep this long list. That list is growing as we continue to add services and develop things. This is what our login screen looks like. Many of you guys have used it. We had a custom design Bobby pulled together for us. You go through, like we said, we have all the list of the services on the left and right. But you can log into the portal here. Type in your Active Directory username and password. You can go through and if you forget your password, it'll help you out with it. You can also get more information about it there. You click login, and it brings you into the login screen. So this is our home screen for the portal. When you log in, it's going to give you your top 6 services based on the role that you're logging in with. So my role actually is faculty and staff because I teach part-time. So I'm getting the faculty, the ranking here. Essentially what it does is you have 4 roles now as of this afternoon. That's student, in order, student, faculty, staff, and applicant, which is applicant, I guess, we're working on the ranking for that. But so if someone's applying, they're getting ready to go through orientation, they can log into the portal as well. So if you're a student, you're going to get the student services. If, like me, I'm a staff member, but I'm also faculty, the faculty trumps that, so I get faculty services. If I was just staff, it would look a little bit different. But it's going to give you the services that are most tailored to that role that you have. So as a faculty member, I have my email, BlazeView, GoView, Banner, password management, and parking and transportation. And then I also have a list of services below, and this continues to scroll down the page, of all the services that are available. But it's just giving me my top 6 of the things that I use most often. You'll see the ones that have the green circle next to them are the single sign-on. Those are ones that I can actually I'm already logged into. I can go straight to those. Others I'll have to actually log in once I click the link. One of the other cool things are these ad channels, and we'll talk about them a little bit more. But these are custom depending on what your role is whenever you sign in. It also gives you a nice little good morning or good afternoon or good evening whenever you log in as well. Okay. The other issue we faced was poor communication from an advising standpoint. And Alicia and I have actually been able to use this really powerfully to help out with our advisement center. Students weren't checking their email very regularly. So what we did was we linked MyVSU to advising. So now it creates message flags from the advisement center. So if I'm a student and I have an issue and my advisor needs to contact me, they can log into the portal and send me a message. So actually whenever I log in, I get a nice green bar across the top if it's a friendly message saying, hey, you need to come in and get advised. And if it's, hey, you need to get advised, you're failing all of your classes, it's red, and it tells me that I can go through and do that. It also is tied to your email. So we wanted to have a messaging system, but we didn't want it to be independent of email. So once they actually check it in the portal, they can reply to it from there, and it actually sends an email and links it back with their email system. So they can go back and review that message later within email, which is really great if they want to go back and check that out. Because once they check it, it goes away and clears their inbox. For at-risk students, this was initially developed for our at-risk communication that's since grown to talk to other students and kind of communicate with everyone on campus. So we set up this ad system, which is what we showed you earlier on either side of the links. It uses 6 channels, which are, the channels are just what we call those areas that the ads populate into, to convey any sort of information to students. We use advising and institutional attributes within the data warehouse, and I'm sure that they'll talk about a little bit more about that, to identify at-risk students in multiple areas and then tailor messages to those specific attributes. And we'll talk about that in just a second. We use others to distribute general information to students, faculty, and staff that aren't necessarily at risk. These attributes for the at-risk students are at-risk general, math, and reading. We can tag it by minimum GPA and maximum GPA. We can tag messages based on course attendance status. If they're not showing up to English 1100, we can go through and check that out. Course progress status, if in progress grades are not great, we can go through and identify those students for tutoring, things like that. And then you can also monitor the withdrawal count, so we can actually send alerts. Whenever they have one withdrawal left, they get a nice big red ad that says, you have one left. Please don't withdraw from any more classes because you're in trouble. All right. General attributes, these are all the others. So things like college, department, and major, we can identify students by that. We can do academic standing, first year, sophomore, all the way through senior, graduate student, things like that. Course college, course department, and course subject. These are actual, and course number. So you can actually identify, I teach journalism 2500A. I could send out an ad that only goes to students in my A section of that class. We can get that specific with it. But we could also hit the entire journalism program. We can hit the entire 2500, things like that. We can also identify user categories, so that's what we talked about earlier, the faculty, staff, or student. We've recently added applicant to that. In the last 24 hours, that's gone live. And then we have specific users, so if I need to send it to a list of 10 students, these specific students get this ad, it can go to those 10 specific students. These are our ad channels, so this is just a close-up view of it, some options that we have for our advertisements. We have 5 basic templates that we can go through when we build these. We actually do a whole training within Cascade to show you guys how to use these so you can build these out. But basic ads are just your general text ads, which are either going to have this nice West Hall background or the nice bronze background. And just really quick information, not a lot of text, get to the point quickly, and then link to where you need them to go. So for right now, I'm getting faculty ads. So I'm getting tenure information. I can click there. It takes me to the page about tenure applications. I can go to the library. I can see I've got a special event that's coming from the College of Ed for a guest speaker that's coming on campus. It's got a nice photo, a headline, a subhead, and a quick little paragraph to give me more information about a subject, where I can go and I can actually click that and find more information out later. We use this a lot for events and special programs, things like that. I've got a special ad here for Valdosta State News. Gives me a quick little paragraph about what they do and allows me to click and go to the news page. We also have options for video as well as this setup here. So this would just be a video that pops out and plays. There are 4 major components to any ad that we have to have. That's content, so it's got to have some sort of message, some sort of text that says, here's what we want to tell you, and a place to go. It can have a video or a photo with it. That's optional. You can supply that to us. We'll plug it in. We use YouTube to upload the videos, and then we'll just link them over. You need to have attributes. We need to know what students, faculty, staff members this needs to go to. So if it needs to go to students who are at risk math, we need to know that. If it needs to go to all students, we need to know that. I need to know a start and end date. So if it's for a specific event, I need to know when it should go up and when it should come down. We can define both of those things. Or if it just goes up indefinitely. If it's, hey, come visit the library, we can set that up for indefinite dates. And then finally, we need to know a priority level. We actually have a priority ranking system for our ads to kind of define what gets put at the top of the list. Because if we just loaded everything in, emergency ads, things that are really, really important may get bumped down for an event at the student union later, or movie night. So we went through and created a ranking system of 1 through 9. 1 is a static ad. That's going to be something that everybody can see if there's nothing else important. So like, not that it's not important, but like the library ad, the news ads, things like that. I don't have any other triggers pulling, so those are going to be in there just so I have ads in the background. All right, those are general services for everybody. Priorities 2 and 3 are for event ads, things like maybe not the union, the happening, a new student mixer, job fairs, things like that, things that are happening on campus that people may be interested about. When we get up to priority 4 and 5, those are our general academic announcements. So things like fall registration's open, college advisements open, graduation application reminders, internship ads, certification deadlines, things like that. A little more important than your events, so you want to make sure those get bumped to the top. 6 through 8 are at-risk or critical academic notices. So these are things where the student has an issue that they need to resolve. We want to make sure that that gets to the top of the list. So, if they have 1 to 3 withdrawals remaining or they're at risk with their minimum GPA, we can target those and get them to the top. And then finally, the category 9 is an emergency or immediate attention required. So that's something like active shooter, God forbid, hurricane shutdown, campus shutdown, things like that. And we try to not activate those unless absolutely coordinated with communications, everybody else. We've all decided that that's what we need to do. All right, and here's a sample ad. This is what it's going to look like in the back end once you build it. It's going to give you a preview of what the ad's going to look like in the channel. It's going to give you the address of how we link to it. It's also going to show all of your attributes. So it's going to show, like, this one goes to all faculty, students, and staff. It's a priority 3, and it runs from now to the 21st at 11:59 p.m., okay, which is the day before the event. And that's what it looks like. And I'll change depending on what you put in there, but all that information needs to be the same. So in order to get started, so say you want to use this to communicate with your audience, just like Jeff said, there's a training that you'll have to go through with his office. You have to go through a training with ours to use this tool. You have to have Cascade training. That's the basic thing. So if you've already done that for your area of the website, that's great. If not, you need to go and take the basic Cascade training. You don't have to have the intermediate to do this. It helps, but just basic. Step 2, you need to take the MyVSU portal ad training. Our next one is March 5th from 2 to 4. It's not going to be up on the training database through EOD, just because we're not going to open this up for everybody, because not everybody has content that needs to go into this portal. So if you're interested and you have maybe a department that didn't make it today, we'll announce it to them that they can sign up for that as well. But do please come. Ashley and I are teaching that. It's a really easy class to show you how to make the ads. You'll select a template. We have 5 options. There's paragraph with video, paragraph with something else, and then just standard buttons that you can load, and then just a standard video. So those are there to choose from. You click it, it gives you a form just like you build a page in Cascade. Fill it out, upload any content that you've got to it, and then you'll turn on the workflow, and it sends me a message as the content editor. I can go through, make sure that everything's correct, that you've gotten all your attributes correct. I'm not really so much back checking your content as much as I'm just making sure that you have everything there that we need to make it work. I'll send that over to the data warehouse, they code it, get it up into the ad, and we're good to go. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Kind of dumb, but if someone's suspended, would they still be able to get messages? How far after that?
If a person is suspended,
So say we were sending messages to all the ANS suspensions, would they be able to get that? Like,
they would still, yeah, they have access, as long as their account's active, they have access to the portal. So they would, if they were suspended at the end of fall,
right.
you were trying to message them in some way, they
Right,
could come into the portal.
Get them in early before they go back home.
Right. For students that are going on suspension, you can hit them just like with this. You can hit them with an ad inside here, a message inside of here, and then it'll also automate the email out to them as well. So it gives you a kind of a multifaceted way to communicate with any student. For example, a suspended student falls into our at risk. So any ads you build for arts and sciences students who are readmitted, anybody readmitted means they've been suspended. So you can develop a whole ad suite or a couple ads for readmitted students, just making sure that they're aware that, tailoring information to them about what it means to be readmitted. Because if you get suspended again, what's it mean? Well, instead of 1 semester, it's now a year. Suspended again, we know which readmission they'd be on. We can tailor information to remind them of how critically important it is that they get the support they need during the semester to hopefully get the grade 1 average up to where that they won't go right back out on suspension. The other things that, Keithan, first of all, let me congratulate and thank everybody that worked on this. We built this in-house in 6 months. Portal implementation of the Lumina portal typically takes 18 months, and that's one that comes out of the box, ready to go. You'd have to buy it and spend about $500,000 on it. We built this in-house with in-house resources, the web team, Brian's team, everybody else. It launched, it's operational. We targeted at-risk students to start with, but now the technology is available for everybody. So, like he was showing you, it recognizes them as faculty members. Cool, because he is the point person for the whole thing. He is the point person for the whole thing. But basically, all this technology works on information we have in our business intelligence data warehouse and all the things that run in the background that make this possible. There's a lot of automation in this. For example, if a student goes on probation, the system will update. If we have an ad set out there for students going on probation, you don't have to think about, do I need to do something about this? The system knows that student is now on probation, and it automatically adjusts accordingly and starts putting those ads up for them. I'll let Brian talk a little bit about the warehouse part of it. Questions for Phil? Yeah.
How much lead time do you need to submit the ad before it needs to start running?
I like to ask for a week. If you're building the ad out yourself, go ahead and build it out. It'll send a workflow message to me. If you haven't heard from me in 24 hours after you complete the ad, just contact me, because sometimes the workflow doesn't come to my attention immediately. And I'll log in, check it out, approve it, send it over. And then give us a day or two to kind of go through and get it over to Brian's guys. Sometimes we run into issues with attributes. So I'd say if you've got like an event especially, give me at least 2 weeks, so that way we have a couple days to get it up, and you've got a week of advertising time before the event happens. But if it's like a general notice, things like that, just give us a couple days to kind of get everything right, and we'll post it up. Yeah.
I have two questions. The first question is, if we have events that are targeted to faculty and staff and not necessarily students, okay, that we can log in, can we still put ads up?
Yeah, and you can do ads just for faculty and staff. So you see, my example that I give you is my personal login. So I'm getting faculty and staff ads. I'm not getting any of the ads that students are getting. So those were all either static, those category ones that go to everybody, or the specifically for faculty and staff.
Yeah,
My second question was, can somebody clarify if they lose the valdosta.edu email address after they graduate at some point? Because I've heard different answers for that question.
Right now, we don't have a specific time frame. Right now, I think it goes a few years. But for alumni, we haven't made a final decision on that yet. But we have options. If we decide that we do want to keep them long term, that is something that we can do. But it's something we haven't really finalized yet.
Yeah, and this is a system that's not really tailored to alumni, because we're trying to push them to that new portal that we're launching next month.
That was a little bit different. I just wanted to know, because I do get questions about, will I lose my valdosta.edu account
Right now,
at some point after I graduate? And I tell them to go ahead and give another email address, because I'm not sure. So I just wanted to...
Yeah, right now, no. And right now, kind of what Keith has shown, this is really just kind of the beginning of the technology. We've only, as Andy mentioned, 6 months. What we're kind of doing, kind of overall concept, right now you walk around campus, you see flyers everywhere in this building. You get so many emails on the staff and faculty listservs. I mean, nobody pays attention to all of that. What we're trying to do now is use the technology. So like if you log into Amazon, it shows you things that you may like to read. Or if you have Netflix, it knows how to recommend the best movies that you'll like to see. So we're basically kind of bringing that same concept to VSU. So it's part of the web service team, part of IT, enrollment management as far as at-risk students, since enrollment management is our top priority. But as well as now we're incorporating it, if a student just applies to VSU, now we're going to have ads tailored to them. If they're an alumni, we can tailor ads to say, hey, check out your alumni portal. So while this may not be their direct portal, if they're just graduating this, they will know to go to my VSU portal, but we'll need to put an ad here to say, hey, you need to also go to the alumni portal now. Sort of the concept here is it's not just this attribute driven, it's also based on surveys, unstructured data. So we use Qualtrics now, and I apologize, I'm losing my voice. But we have things like Qualtrics, we have Banner, we have data engagement. If a student goes and uses the print services at the library, for instance, or if they go eat at Palms Dining, we have all of this information now. So if we know that, say, like if you go on Twitter and you say that, hey, I flew with Delta and they were horrible, somebody from Delta is going to contact you because they have that built into their IT infrastructure. So that's what we're going to do here. That's what we're going to. So we'll be able to use surveys to say if students having a bad experience, how do we trigger events there, or how do we tailor ads there? Or if we know that they go to the library and they use the library to say check out certain books, or if we just know that they went online to the library, we know that we can kind of tailor ads specific to them. Or better yet, if they don't go to the library, that's something that we feel that they need to do, we can tailor ads that way. We're also looking at, right now we can track certain sporting events. We're looking at doing that better, so we know if they're engaged or not. Or if we have a list of rosters, say if you have events for alumni, we can tell you who's engaged more on campus than others. So you can then strategically target certain initiatives, not just in the portal, but things that you may have outside of the portal. So this is really just the first stage of a broader concept, and really being able to target information to people, being able to use statistics, all these different databases. This is the first time we've been able to do unstructured data. So if you have a survey, for instance, where people kind of do a free form, like, tell us more or describe your experience, we can now rank those. So we can tell that, this person typed in a positive response versus a negative response, and we can kind of aggregate those to really kind of, redo our structures, or redo how we provide services, or we can kind of really gauge whether we're falling short on some service or we're doing excellent on certain services. So we can really use this data now to really focus our ads, focus our strategic goals, being able to provide the technology and communication a lot better. So that's really kind of the overall goal on this. If there's something that the portal's not doing, if there's a certain attribute that we're not looking at, we can bring in data that's outside. So like I said, again, the stuff that you're collecting is not in any of these systems. We can easily, through our data warehouse, bring that data in and add those metrics to the portal. I mentioned admissions. That's something we added like 2 days ago, so Keith may not even be aware of that, but in less than 2 days, we've added applicants. So if an applicant logs in, we're not gonna be able to say, hey, check out the My VSU tour, but we're also gonna add, hey, you haven't signed up for housing yet, so here's a link to go fill out your housing applications, or hey, orientation's coming up in a month, this is where you need to go sign in for orientation. So again, it's really a broader concept, but what we're doing is being innovative, like companies like Google, Netflix, and Amazon. You haven't really seen that in higher ed, so we're really kind of breaking out the box to really kind of bring this technology to VSU.
I have a question. For the Honors College, a lot of students are part of different majors. Is there a way for those students to be identified so that if Mike wanted to post something just for the honors students, that group could be aggregated?
Yeah, and that's what we're working with Mike now. I don't know if somebody provided us an Excel file, but we're working on a way now that we can code them in Banner. Even if we have to just work off that Excel file, we can target those, say, hey, you got an event coming up, and that ad will only show for those honor students.
Another question is, if we don't have someone trained to create the ad for us, and you said you need 2 weeks' time to upload the ad, how much time do you need to create the ad? Additional time?
Yeah, we don't need a full 2 weeks to add. I say that for events just because you want lead time for people to be able to see it and figure out you plan to be there. If it's an alert or a notice, things like that, give us a week tops, just because we can probably get it turned around in 2 days. But if for some reason we have to drag, that gives you planning time. Yeah, next slide.
One of the reasons we wanted to show this group is because right now it's pretty boring. I mean, these are our standard ads, our standard color scheme. What we need creative people like you all to do is come up with catchy ads that talk to your target audience, and work with creative design services and Bobby and Keith to basically create an ad that will literally speak to that audience so that they'll click on it. Because what we're tracking in the background is whether or not they're actually going to use the ad or the product, or we can see whether they click on the things, we can see once they click on it, once they go to the next website, is there a form they fill out, do they fill it out or not, do they take action with regard to what is, what we're trying to get them to do. So, I mean, and all this is, we know they logged in, we know they saw the ad. Did they click on the ad? If they clicked on the ad, was there something on the web page they were supposed to do next, and did they do that? We're talking about at-risk students, so you flag a student as a faculty member, there's a few faculty members in here. You flag a student that's not coming to your class, well, that flag sets off a set of automated responses outside of the portal. So, one of the things it does is, once you set off a flag on a student, if it's an absentee flag, the student lives in housing, we know it triggers the housing student success person. That student success person in housing will probably go do what we call a warm bed check. Check the room, see if the student's in there, see if they're sick or not. One of the things we found out in the first semester we launched this is that We had students that were in their rooms and were actually sick. And what that housing person would do is put information back in the system that makes the faculty aware of what's going on. Found the student's in his room and sick. We're getting him over to health services or encouraging him to go over to health services to see our doctor that we have on staff full time. So, but it's a way to supply more information back and forth. It's two ways. We call it actionable intelligence because you're constantly putting in inputs, and all these inputs are constantly being associated at the row level with the individual student. We'll probably be adding in the next year what's called CRM, which is Consumer Relations Management tools to this, which are, that's what all your companies are using. That gives you a holistic view of who your client, who your consumer is, so that you can better serve them and better target them. So there'll be more tools added to this suite over time. The applicant portal, like I said, 2 weeks ago I told Brian, I was like, all right, we need to get a portal so that a student, once they're admitted, can get into here and start getting information. Since we're trying to make this the one spot where you go to do business. And you get the banner from here, you can get to a D2L from here. So let's go ahead, as soon as they're admitted, and start pushing them into this technology so that they can start getting familiar with it, start learning how to use it. As we put upgrades out, those upgrades will probably come with some free training through the portal. But it is, I'm very impressed with what they've been able to do in a short period of time. I mean, it's, kind of like, let's do this, and I don't really know how we do it, but it's working very well. There's room for more than just 6 ads. There's room for about 10, 5 on each side, and fit on a standard screen.
That was my next question. How do you make sure that the portal isn't overloaded for students? If everybody's starting to submit their ads.
Well, one of the things we're trying to tell people is don't submit these big general purpose ads. Target the population you want to target so that they don't get overwhelmed. Make sure that you want to target senior business majors. Boom, that limits it down real small to where that you're not cluttering, 11,800 students portal with it. So, and what we said is that's why the 2 bottom things are general events, static ads, and general events. Everything else is down the chain is considered more important information and more pertinent to that student. For example, the registrar's office, I don't know if anybody here from the registrar's office. When you get within 30 hours of 120, the ad will pop up to apply for graduation so that they can start working on your degree route and other things. But it's tailored around when a student passes that threshold. Nobody has to go out and make a data request to do that. You set the parameters and it's automated, and it'll basically target them to where that form is online so that they can fill it out. We can start tracking how many seniors are actually taking advantage of it. I mean, it's the same thing. We want the ads to be, they can put video, keep talking about video. You can have a video ad. We don't have many people that have done that yet, but it's a possibility.
Will there be a way for us to maybe know, like, since the registrar is already creating an ad, there's no reason for us to turn around and say, hey, don't forget to apply for graduation?
Use a list of all the ads that are currently in the queue and who they're for, and who they're tailored to. So if you're like, hey, we want to put a graduation ad up, he'll say to you when you submit it, so it's any different than the one we already have.
Okay.
And that's how we have that submission workflow. So things, when they come in, I can say, okay, we already have this, and maybe let you know, maybe you want to tailor it just to specific students. Another reason, too, that we don't just do a straight priority 1, 2, 3. We do that kind of 2 to 3, 4 to 6. It's like, for example, for events. Like a 2 would be a general, everybody can come kind of event. Whereas a 3 would be like study abroad did a couple weeks ago, where they had their study abroad fair, and they're really targeting their Czech Republic trip, which is primarily for psych majors. So they did an ad that only went to psych majors, junior, senior year with a GPA of 2.5 or higher, because those are the only students that want to go. And so that got a 3 because it was targeted to more specific students. So that's kind of what we reserve it for. The higher numbers are for more targeted ads, the lower numbers are for more kind of general purpose ads.
Could you do it with a city, a certain metro area, like Metro Atlanta, for students?
Yeah, that would be just a custom.
Yeah,
so
we're not currently targeted.
Well, we've got like scholarships that are targeted, the Alumni Association has scholarships that are targeted for that area. We've had 0 applicants. So I did an e-blast to the alumni, not just through the financial aid office, but to the alumni, and now we're getting responses because the parents are making the students go apply for that, apply for that.
And we can target that based on the zip code. We do have all the counties and geocodes labeled, so.
And what you've been looking at so far are screenshots. This is kind of a live shot, but you can see on even with the projection screen, the 6 ads that are on there fit on there really well. It's looking at me like a student rather than Keith has tenure information on there. What I'm saying is that this is a general student right now, that this is what they're getting. So the need to start creating ads is pretty pertinent. I mean, this is, like I said, even our students are they're getting a news ad, I'm getting a library ad, I'm getting a social media ad, but it's not real snazzy. I mean, and we have to put content out there, and we did it quickly. We need to get ads, what we say, we do 25 ads real fast just to make sure it all works. Well, it works. Now it's time to put out the ads that we really need and really want. So that's why we wanted to show this to this group and get this group, and you guys are the ones. And you know, this is farther reaching than just this group. I mean, anybody out there that has a subpopulation of this campus that they'd like to communicate with, the portal is here for everybody. Once we get email at single sign-on, we think that we'll see usage among faculty and staff increase as well. I mean, but any faculty or staff that's going into D2L can come through this portal too. I mean, they're using that product or any of these products, Banner, any of the single sign-on products. Most of the single sign-on products right now are tailored around faculty and students.
Right, how are you driving students to the Mind VSU? Because like their email, they may already have that going straight to their, iPhone or whatever. So how are you getting students to go to Mind?
We get, if they're using the LMS, content management, the learning management system, we kind of hit all the links to it except for going through the portal. And they pretty much define D2L, everything kind of directs you through the portal to start. So that's one way we try to push them through. Banner's the same way. We're trying to get Banner's on here. Get into Banner, push them through the portal. When registration opened in the fall, the first month, registration opened the month we launched it, at over 93,000 logins. So and people are using it. Those are mostly all students, but over 93,000, some of them are multiples, same student multiple times. But to have 93,000 logins in the first month means that taking away those other opportunities for them to get to those services
So
are
you're
working
driving
to
them
push
to
them.
that. What about faculty and staff? Because
They're new to it. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really targeted them yet, but it's in targeting faculty and staff, how should we? That's the next question.
Yeah.
So, and that's a question for groups like this who are involved in communications and marketing and so forth. How do we get your faculty, your staff from your areas to come to here to get information
Well, it was brought up a few minutes ago, somebody did about the emails, all the emails or whatever. Well, what if we, for faculty and staff, there was a faculty staff announcements, and instead of sending out emails, they filled out a form and it went on the site, and they'd have to go to the site to see it. I mean, that would, one, make them have to go to the page, and two, alleviate a problem we all know is becoming bigger and bigger with these massive emails over and over and over again.
You get an email over and over again for about 2 weeks, and there's nothing on it that's pertinent to you, you stop opening it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one thing we are looking at. So you can have an application within the portal, like you said, to submit it, but then you do have the option to say, yeah, I do want to receive this in my email. So it'll give them both options, but they can then opt out of the email but still have it in the portal.
And every ad has its own analytics. Like we can say that you put up an event ad for 2 weeks, we can let you know how many people clicked on it. We can let you know how many times it was viewed, how many people logged in the portal and saw it, how many people clicked on it. Kind of give you the same thing you get when you do pay-per-click on Facebook or anything else. Kind of this many images were shown, this many click-throughs, and then beyond the click-through, we kind of lose it from there, from our analytics. But once it's onto the page you send them to, then you're able to track it on your own.
I know this is beyond the portal, but these ads, what if we wanted to have them available to the broader public? And I know we have restrictions on the templates that we use for our colleges and departments and stuff. Are these the same structure of the ads that can be placed on a web page as well?
A little different, but we could, the one that's this size is pretty close to, is that correct? It's pretty close to the standard size ad you can see in that, what I call the right-hand spot.
Yeah.
If you're on like a news, like if you're on Yahoo, there's always a spot here with an ad. As long as you have the same content you want to go to the public, Jeff and his people can create an ad to go out on a public news site or a public website somewhere else while it's in the portal as well. But and we might add a thing to the request form for creating one of these. Is it you just want it in the portal, or are you going to do a parallel public ad so that we know that, make sure that they're all synced up?
But a CRM tool, what Andy mentioned, the CRM tool, that would be kind of public facing. So like how I mentioned Amazon and Netflix. So like if I'm just somebody totally new, never been on Valdosta State site, but say I went on there and I looked up the honor school, that CRM tool would then put in ads based on things that I'm clicking on throughout the website. So that's part of what eventually a CRM tool could provide us.
Yeah, and in terms of the actual ads, keep in mind this is also an internal, so you have to be part of VSU in some way, whether that's applicant, employee, student. So we're not necessarily putting all of the branding into the ads. So if you wanted to run this on an external, like on a Facebook ad or something like that, it may not translate as well, so which is why anytime you do anything like that, we send you to Jeff and his group.
Right, other questions?
Yeah, did one of you say that it is hooked up to the campus alert system?
It is. If like, should we have an emergency on campus, you know, the portal would show that emergency information as well.
Yeah,
It would show up there as an ad?
Yeah, it would show up as
in
an
the bar at
ad,
the top.
yes, and it would show up across the top.
It'd show up across the top.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, this green bar right here, I think it'll show up red, and it'll be like the emergency.
On the front page, it shows up yellow,
Okay, it may be yellow here too.
but I didn't realize, so it does show up then on each individual person's, now that's when we use the RSS feed, is that what you're saying? Because to get the yellow bar up there, I have to, when I do, not all alerts have the yellow bar, I have to hit the RSS feed. So when I do that, that's putting it on those other pages?
I think that's how Gary has it,
You
yes.
might want to test that.
So it would be a double alert. So you would have what we've got going across the top, and then that channel 1, which is always going to be top left. That's your priority, highest priority. That's where that emergency ad would be as well. So you'd have sort of a double whammy for somebody. So maybe they're not paying attention to the banner across the top. They'll see the ad.
I don't see anybody from housing here, but can you do it, like if there's a situation in a particular residence hall, you can, if that student logs in, they're only going to see the message for their residence hall?
Yeah, and housing currently has a way they can target emails to those individuals, but we could do the same in the portal, like the water heater they have. Yeah.
Hot water heater goes out. We're working on it, and it comes down when it's done.
I think I heard someone say something to the effect that the system will eventually be able to track students. Will the students have a button to press that they're in trouble?
Right now, the students do not have that option to basically press a button, but it's something that we've been talking about, letting students have access to put information in on that they self-actualize the fact they're struggling to use the portal to get, but it's not there yet. No. Right now, it's only faculty, advisor, initiated alerts or automated predictive modeling alerts.
Anybody else?
This is mobile device, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all built with responsive design, so it doesn't, you only get number 1 ad at the top before you have to scroll through the list of the services to get to the rest of the ads on a small device, and that's kind of the way, but on a tablet, it shows it really well.
Yep. Yeah, so you don't have to scroll through 6 ads before you get to services on your phone.
Just the top one, just whatever we put in spot number 1, you see before you get to services.
I think it's a great idea, but as we see from reaction from some of these in-store tracking protests, some students might object to that on a privacy basis.
Yeah.
This isn't private information.
The thing is, we're only using information that already exists and is available to people. It's just not easy to get to. What we've done is made the data easier to access and understand. Because anybody that has access to this portal has access to Banner. Anybody that has access to Banner typically has access to DegreeWorks. And pretty much you have to dig through to find all these things out. So we've automated a lot of that, and we've thrown a lot of information into an easier to use format for advisors, for faculty, and for staff that are involved in student support service.
This information we've been asking for years so that we can turn around and send emails, and it takes out some of that labor-intensive piece of the communication process and plan we already had in place. It was taking hours of manpower on our end and in IT and in other areas, and it's made it more streamlined so that we can spend time face-to-face with students instead of trying to gather information to get it in.
Yeah, some of the results we have seen, we ran analysis on students going to like the Student Success Center. What we found was that they were typically going later in the semester after midterm, usually like when it was kind of too late. And once we kind of started targeting them with the faculty portal, we slowly started seeing students attending the Success Center a lot early in the semester. And so that's one of the things we are able to track because we do have their registration counts.
I work with international students, and I know that we have been working with somebody from Data Warehouse, like with Data Warehouse, and putting the visa attribute in there. And I know me and Lauren would be very interested in like limiting certain messages to our students, since we seriously had a student yesterday saying that he couldn't be bothered to check his email. And
if you get, basically the international coding is in the warehouse. So if you say, when you build your ad, that this is an ad that needs to go out to only international students, then it'll just show up for them. Yeah, we could do the, it could target on the one, and it could target on the visa type too.
Yeah, and would that be fine with like potential, like the applicant portal as well? So I know like we try to remind anybody who's been admitted to, check for orientation and all those details.
Admitted portal's new. I mean, like I said, literally like in the last week and whatnot. But yes, a student who gets admitted, if they show those international attributes, they'll not only be able to access the portal to get the information, but you'll be able to see them sooner in your portal. The portal that we have for just you guys from an advising perspective, that one that Keisha and we're working on, you'll be able to see those admits faster than you've been able to see them in the past. In the past, you ran a process and it came as a printout, but you'll be able to come in here on a daily basis.
I have to keep a spreadsheet, and I was like checking every now and then, but that would be good.
That initiative comes through our data warehouse team. And they are doing a lot of work. So
it's like the portal Keisha has been worked on is awesome for us, and it's like seeing that specific students are quoted as F1, and then we can pull them from our reports because we do try to keep track.
And that's what I mean. Things like that. What she just did is exactly what we want you to do. What about this? Well, if it's there, it can be done. It's the ask the question. In groups like this, and all groups, it's, well, what about this group, or could you do that group? Yeah, well, typically the answer is going to be yes, and if it's not, it's because we don't have the data, and if we don't have the data, then we've got to figure out how to start collecting it.
Yeah, we don't want you guys to think that if we're not necessarily targeting your specific area yet, that this isn't for you. Because like you said, if you guys have a target audience that you're looking for, specific information you're trying to reach, and we don't have that yet, we can probably find a way to get that information and pull it in to help your students.
We haven't said no yet.
Yes.